Here are 16 deals, Carlton, that I've done in the last 2.5 years. I don't even look at a property unless I can make $25,000 at least.
Maybe you'd like to buy a property, do a little clean and fix up, then sell it for a quick profit. Well, since getting my course, Mike and Francine from New Jersey have done that 16 times and improved their net worth over $838,000. Mike, I think what you've done is just amazing. Let's just look at a couple of these. For example, here, this one, $52,415 profit in 3 months. Here are the checks. I think this is the Baldwin property, isn't it? That you made $50,194 in 8 months.
Correct.
Here's another one, 21 Hazel. You made $44,071 profit on this in 2 months.
Yes.
Am I reading right? $53,000 profit in 2 weeks?
Yes, this one's amazing.
Welcome to the Carleton Sheets Real Estate video series in this presentation. And now your host, Carleton Sheets.
We're here in the Figlia home. Mike lives in New Jersey and has owned my course now for about 2.5 years. Mike and Francine have 3 children and a beautiful home here in the New Jersey suburbs. Mike likes to find bargain properties, buy them no money down, and quickly resell them for a profit, many times increasing those profits by doing some cosmetic fix-ups and cleanups to the property. Now let's see, Mike, you've done 16 properties.
That's correct, 16.
And profited $583,391, and you still own 2 properties, not only this beautiful home here, but also a home on the Jersey Shore, and your equity in those 2 properties is another $255,000, which brings your total real estate profits to over $838,000. Mike, that is just so impressive.
It's very surprising, the numbers, you know?
Let's talk a little bit about how you did that.
Well, Carlton, I took your course, and I looked over it. I listened to the tapes a lot, and I got so many ideas that clicked with other different ideas that I had, and it just fell together.
Mike and Francine, let's talk about your basic system and how you do it. How do you find and buy and rehab and sell properties?
Well, basically, Carlton, get to know your real estate realtors and become friends with them, as many as possible. Tell them what you're looking for. I'm looking for a handyman special. Okay, through your one deal, you'll get to know them, but you're going to get more comfortable as the deals go on. And right now, I have a great bunch of people that I work with. Every realtor knows exactly what I want. I want something I can flip over, that I can make some money off it, and and basically I give it back to them to sell it, and we're able to move houses a lot faster that way.
Mike, did you find that it took interviewing a number of different realtors and agents to find 1 or 2 to work with, or how did you select the ones that you're working with?
Well, a couple of them I have deals that I did many, like you see, a couple contracts with the same person. He was able to move a lot faster than another realtor because he saw exactly what I was going to do.
I think it's probably a good point to be made here to people that when you go into a real estate broker's office, you don't know whether they're going to perform or not. And you're certainly not going to go in and say, I want to buy properties, no money down. A better approach, and obviously the one you've used, is I'm interested in buying properties that need some cosmetic rehabbing. I'd like to have properties that have a lot of equity in them. And what I will do is buy those properties, do some clean up and fix up, and relist them with you. Please call me if you've got any properties like that. Is that basically the approach you've had with real estate brokers?
That's it. I find going into a realtor, don't think you know everything, because you don't. No one knows everything. Go in there and don't act dumb, but don't act like you're smart. Just talk to the guy normal and tell him, after I fix up the house, I will list it back to you, and that's
It's a big incentive
motivating,
for
I guess,
It's a big
to that
incentive
realtor.
for them. And then they've saw through our deals too. Mike will have the house, he'll do a little bit of work, and then like in a week to 2 weeks, they can have the house listed back on the market again.
Or they won't believe you that you're going to relist it, and I'll tell them, as soon as I buy the house,
It's trust, I believe.
I will be putting it right back in your hands, and I'll sign that contract. Right there, you feel a lot more comfortable with the realtor.
Mike, did you find that when after you bought a property through a realtor, that they were more willing then to get another one for you and another one after
Yes.
that.
Absolutely.
So the ones that didn't perform maybe didn't come through either because they were lazy, number one, or number two, just didn't believe that you had the wherewithal to do it, huh?
That's right. Where they thought they can get more money for the property instead of looking at, say you're working with me, you're going to get 10 other ones, properties. Where if they work with a stranger who's just going to buy a house, they're just doing the one house with them. That's it, and it's goodbye. They're never going to see him again. Me, you're going to see me again.
You know, there's a reoccurring theme here that I think I need to draw attention to, and that is Mike's constant reference to needing to sell people. Now, let's face it, we're all salespeople in one form or another, but you've got to sometimes sell an owner that doesn't have their property on the market, sell an owner on the idea of selling. You've got to sell brokers on the idea of looking for properties for you. And Mike just said, don't go in like a know-it-all. On the other hand, don't go in and act totally ignorant either. Just be friendly and say, here's what I'm trying to do, and encourage them to find something for you, promising that you'll relist the property. Now, Mike, originally, did you approach realtors and tell them what you were looking for, or was your initial contact with realtors, did it come about as a result of for sale signs you saw in front of houses?
Basically for sale signs. Yeah. You know, looking at the house or just driving through the neighborhood.
So you would drive through neighborhoods, find properties that were on the market, call the realtor that had the listing on the property, and that's how you establish your initial contact with realtors.
That's correct.
That was our Sunday afternoon. Getting in the car with the kids, driving around looking for houses.
Our hobby.
Every Sunday afternoon. Did you try to identify one or two or three areas to work in, or did you just kind of go out random?
Because we just drove everywhere. You know, we just, put the kids in the back and just drove through the neighborhood. Any neighborhood, if you could see if it's bad, if it's good, or if there's an opportunity there.
And then you would copy down the names of realtors that had properties for sale in those neighborhoods, and then you would call the realtors Monday morning.
Mm-hmm.
That's correct.
Okay. Were there many properties for sale by owner that you found in your driving?
Yes.
There was, but basically I think you'll get more bargains through a realtor because by owners, they're very stubborn and they're set on one price, and you can't motivate them at all.
Well, that's interesting. So many times properties for sale by owners, that you find them inflexible, and only when properties don't sell, when they can't sell them themselves, then they list them with a real estate broker, and at that point in time, they're more flexible than they were.
That's correct. Or they owe such a large mortgage on it that I guess they can't afford to give it to a realtor, and they try to sell it on their own and get the most money out of the house.
Mike, you would go out, you and Francine would go out Sunday afternoons and drive. Would you also drive yourself during the week looking for properties?
Yeah, in between going to jobs, I do rubbish removal and landscaping, and in between a job, if I'm going to another job, say, I'd see a house that's for sale, and I'd write down the address and the phone number of who's selling it.
So you do rubbish removal and landscaping, and between jobs you would be looking. Did you try to take a different road each time between jobs, or
just happened naturally?
Yeah.
You just make a left or a right. It just whatever block you're on, there's going to be a for sale house on.
I guess I'd have to say, for those of you that are not in the rubbish removal and landscape business, that you still can drive neighborhoods. And in fact, Mike, you and I were talking about it. If you're driving in a car to work or driving to a store, turn off that radio and take a different route each day and be alert for properties that fit the kind of profile that we're talking about, properties that do need to be cosmetically rehabbed.
That's correct. Instead of beeping that horn, look around, you'll find a house.
Were you able, Mike, over a period of time, and Francine, to develop a relationship with real estate brokers so you let them know the kinds of properties you were looking for, so maybe you didn't have to go out every Sunday, they would be looking for you?
They call us. They fax us lists. They call us all day.
And basically,
Anytime.
we don't really, it's not like we have to go out on a Sunday, to go out and look for a house. We want to, because it's fun, but now we have the realtors bring them to us, and we'll go out, and if that realtor don't come up with a deal, we'll go look for one that's there.
Yeah.
There's so many out there.
Francine, you said something that I think is important, and that is, you mentioned a fax machine. Today, with fax machines under $300, you can't afford, as a professional investor, not to own one. Whether you're buying one property a year or doing like Mike has done in 16 properties in 2.5 years, get a fax machine. Mike, you talk about driving neighborhoods, you and Francine, and looking for properties. Tell me a little bit more specifically what you're looking for.
Well, basically, when we're driving, I look for houses that have a lot of bushes, overgrown, weeds, just a house that looks awful. It's been sitting there on the market. It may not even be for sale, the house. I'll see that it needs work, and I'll try to call I'll get the address and the address, and I'll try to get as much information on that house. I'll call the tax collector, find out who's the owner. I'll do it that way, or I'll basically knock on a door. I could even go to maybe one of the neighborhoods and ask them who owns that house. How long has it been sitting? And I vision it totally different without the weeds and fixed up, painted, all cleaned up, and it totally looked like a different house.
So many times you've actually taken the initiative when a property's not on the market for sale, but it has all of the telltale signs of being run down, the overgrown bushes, weeds, maybe newspapers gathering outside or whatever, actually knocking on the door and talking to the owner about buying their property.
That's correct.
Yeah. What actually do you say? What specific words do you use with the owner?
Well,
I mean, you found the properties now, it looks terrible. You go up and you knock on the door, what do you say?
Well, I'll basically, when I ask them, I won't sit there and totally mock out their property. I find that to be an insult to them. I'll sit there and say, well, the house needs some work. I was overlooking a little bit, and is it for sale? Would you happen to know who the owner is? You know, would you think they want to sell it? I wouldn't basically come out and say, I'm an investor, I'm here to fix up your house, and I want to flip it over and make a quick profit.
So at the time you knock on the door and talk to whomever answers, you're not really sure whether you're talking to a tenant or to the owner, so you ask if they know who the owner is. Very good. Very good.
I try to make friends with them more than, to go in there and ask them specifically questions. Then I'll get a little comfortable, and then I'm able to ask that question. Is the house
Mike
for sale?
and Francine, I've bought a lot of properties that way where I've actually taken the initiative and asked the person if they'd be willing to sit down and discuss the terms under which they might consider selling the property. Have you found relative success doing that? I mean, what percentage of the people, when you've knocked on the door, when properties are run down, do they say, no, we're not interested at all, or?
Basically, 5 out of 10.
I'd say
4 out
about
of 10.
half.
I had one, Carleton, that was fantastic. 50-50 on one deal on such as Holstead Street. I was there I do rubbish removal, like I said before, and I was cleaning up the property. And I turned around and I asked him, listen, would you like to sell the house? She goes, what makes you think the house was for sale? I said, it seemed like, you need some work done in the house here, and you seem like you got problems. And I asked her, would you like to get out of your problems? And I suggested to her to sell the house, and I bought the house.
Just by asking. To me, that would be encouraging to anyone listening that you're not, number one, you're not having to compete with a lot of other investors. There's no real estate commission that you're going to have to pay. And we've just heard from Francine and Mike that 5 out of 10 properties that you approach that way are receptive to sitting down and talking. It doesn't mean you're going to buy 5 out of 10,
That's right.
But at least you can sit down and talk with them.
I think it built his confidence. He learned that from your tape. Like, he wasn't so outgoing towards people or strangers. And then as he learned it with the tapes, and then he was able to confront people. And then when a deal did go through, that boosted him more.
Got me
and he
very
was
excited.
able to do it.
Got me excited.
And so now he's not afraid of being turned down if he is, but he's not afraid to ask either. You'll never get unless you ask.
Right.
Worst thing they're going to do is say no. It's the worst thing that's going to happen.
Mike and Francine, when you find a property like this and you knock on the door, if there's no one at home, but there's some evidence that people live there, like you can see furniture inside or whatever, what do you do then?
We usually get the address, and then we'll call the town, the tax collector, and find out who the owner is. And then usually Mike will write up a letter, and we send it to them and see if they're interested in selling the house.
Send them a letter.
Sometimes it's hard. If their phone number's listed, we can call them. If not, we'll mail them a letter.
Leave a letter at the house.
Right.
Basically any lead will help. You may not always get it every time, but the chance you have, you have it.
So if you have a telephone number for them, if you can find their telephone number, then you will continue to call them until you reach them, or send them a letter, or both, huh?
Just try to be friendly about it. Don't keep pointing them. Just be as friendly as possible. Yeah. They may say no. They may say yes. They may say, I may think about it. Just ask.
Yeah. And while we're on the subject, every city has got a cross city directory where if you know an address, assuming the telephone number is listed, you can look up the telephone number for that address. The reverse is also true. If you have a telephone number, you can call the directory assistants and ask them for a street address to go with that telephone number in most cities. How much time do you spend on average every week in your investing?
Oh, I think on an average 5 to 10 hours a week.
5 to 10 hours a week, and in 2.5 years, you made almost $1 million.
That's part-time.
Do you find this enjoyable, Mike?
Oh, absolutely. It's a joy to me trying to help out people and buying a house, flipping over for a profit, and helping out someone at the same time, buying it with no money down, and everyone's a winner.
That really is win-win, isn't it? You're
sure
making
is.
good profit, and you're helping people get into your properties with very little money down, people that otherwise might not ever be able to afford a property.
With equity also, when they get it.
Now, you make good profit on every property you sell. Are you selling your properties at the top end of the market value, or do you people able to come in a little bit below market value?
You sound low.
I try to sell it as low as possible.
As low as possible?
Because I can sell it a lot faster than someone else.
Okay.
And they can walk into a house and they have equity as soon as they sign the contract.
Okay, so when you buy a piece of property and you estimate your profit, you estimate that based on reselling the property at a fairly low price, and yet you still made almost $1 million profit.
That's correct.
Good for you.
If you don't sit back and be greedy, you can flip over houses just as quick as me, and everyone can be happy.
Good for you. What is the worst thing that you found about being a real estate investor?
The worst thing, I have to say, not being able to buy as much house as I want, because there's so many houses, so many opportunities out there that you can't get them all.
We've talked about using realtors to find properties, and that's worked for you. You also had said earlier that you drive neighborhoods. Is there any other source for finding properties?
Oh, also, I check with like a local newspaper and look for handyman specials. That's the biggest thing. I'll look in there. I find sometimes with looking through a newspaper that they get retail sales in the newspaper. Well, I want to buy at a wholesale where I can resell it and make someone happy with it. And I also do another source that the realtors, I got so comfortable with them that I do a lot of foreclosures, bank foreclosures, and as soon as they get a foreclosure, they fax it right to my house, and that's where the fax machine comes in a lot handy too with it.
So you can you have an opportunity maybe to go in before someone else would
Sure.
and get that property.
Without even driving or leaving my house. It could be in my house.
So you constantly look through the newspaper, but it hasn't been a real big source of properties for you.
No, really. I bought a couple of them. If you go looking through a newspaper, you can find them. Just I find it more comfortable with realtors, and I'm to a point that I don't have to go looking in the newspaper for every little detail, where the realtors let them do the work for you.
Mike, I'm just looking at some of these contracts on the properties you bought. You're buying a two-family sometimes for roughly $50,000, reselling it for $100,000. If a two-family is listed in the newspaper for $90,000, would you be hesitant about making a $50,000 offer on that property?
No, not at all. I find if it needs work, the more work it needs, make a crazy offer.
The more aggressive you are.
A lot of people turn around and be afraid to make that offer. Don't be afraid. If you don't buy that house, Carleton, the next house you make a deal on will be better than the one you thought you should have had.
Mike, what do you wear to work every day?
Basically, Carleton, I'm comfortable. I wear a t-shirt and sweats every single day.
That's great, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
You know, I do the same thing. It's comfortable. It's wonderful not to have to put on a tie. And you know, the other part of it too is when you're dressed casually, you don't intimidate sellers. If you go in a suit and tie, you very likely could. So I think that's a nice fringe benefit to what we do.
Yes, absolutely. It works for me.
Yeah. How do you know what to pay for a property or what it will be worth after you fix it up?
Well, I'll look at a property and it's such as like a handyman special. I know that property is worth the less now, and when I fix it up, it's going to be worth more. Or I'll get to ride the neighborhood and I'll see what the house is be worth. And if I'm not sure, I'll call up an appraiser, and I'll call up, and I'll bring them out, and I will get the house appraised. And for sure, I know then. That way, I can't lose.
Now, Mike, do you have the house appraised for its value now, or have it appraised for what it will be after it's fixed up?
I have it both. What it's appraised for now, and basically, he'll even give me an idea of what it's going to cost to bring it up to what it's going to be worth when I sell it.
So your knowledge of value really comes from knowing what properties in the neighborhood have sold for.
Yeah, absolutely. Just drive it, and there's always a house for sale on a block there, or it did sell. Just look and call up on a house. You don't have to be an intelligent guy to do this.
Yeah. Have real estate brokers been helpful to you in giving you comparable sales in the neighborhood?
Yes and no. Some do, and some you just basically call up and ask. Say the house is for sale. Okay, you'll call up and ask what they're asking for it. How long has it been on the market for? What do you think they'll take for it? And you'll get an idea right around that point what the area is worth.
Mike, I know you've sold property as quickly as 2 weeks after you bought it and made a big profit, $50,000 as I recall, but you must have held on to property sometimes 3 to 6 months before you sell them.
Yeah, the hardest thing I thought that when I sell the house, okay, was getting the people approved. Okay, bringing the a mortgage and hopefully they can be approved for the house. Because I have the people right away to buy a house. I have them all waiting for a house. But the biggest thing is getting approved for the loan. That's the longest on the house.
So that's interesting. Do you keep a list of people that are interested in buying a property? For example, if you have one for sale and you're able to sell it to a couple and you have a number of other responses, do you keep a list of those people? So you've always got some potential prospects waiting in the wings whenever you buy a property.
Oh, absolutely. You'll sell one property and you may have 20 phone calls on the one property. One may buy the house. You have 19 other people that you can put in another house or tell them what other houses are going to be coming up, and maybe they'll work for them.
Yeah, I can't tell you how important that is. I do this also, and it is a mark of an amateur who says to a caller, I'm sorry, that property is gone, it's already sold, and they don't take the telephone number and name down. Oh. And so what you do, what I do, and that is to keep a continual log of calls and telephone numbers so you've got people to go to. When you buy a piece of property, you know what the ultimate market value is going to be because you know the values in the neighborhood, and real estate brokers have helped you find that. Do you build in not only the cost of repairing the home, the cost of the real estate brokerage commission you're going to have to pay when you sell it, but also the cost of holding it for 4 to 6 months potentially?
Mortgage payments, all that. I have everything. Basically, you're not on the penny. You're never going to be on the penny. You know, you'll be around the figure. Sometimes I was a little bit lower, but through a couple of deals, you'll learn.
Sometimes a little high and sometimes a little low, I know. So when you talk about a $25,000 profit, that is a net profit after you take out the real estate commission when you sell the property, after you take out the fix-up costs, after you take out the cost of holding it, insurance and mortgage payments and utilities. That's $25,000 net profit.
It sounds like a lot. It sounds a little rough, but you're able to make a good profit.
Absolutely, and the quicker you sell it, then the more profit you're going to make. But at a very minimum, it's going to be $25,000.
That's it. It has to be. Or I don't want to be bothered looking at it. If I'm going to put all the time into it, or fixing it, or painting, that's what I mean by time, painting it, I want to see some cash when I walk out of there with.
Mike, I know you use partners in paying for the property and rehabbing the property. How did this all come about?
Well, I turned around and I was asking a lawyer at a closing that if I turn around, if I can find some partners on houses, that I can go in there and buy these houses on cash money, that I can buy them a lot faster and turn them over a lot quicker instead of going through banks and going for points and going through a whole bunch of stuff that is unnecessary to do when you could do it a lot quicker on a 2-week closing.
Did you use partners in the very beginning, going back 2.5 years when you first got my course? How did you buy your first property then?
My very first one, I put it on a Visa as a down payment. And from there, I resold the house, turned it over, and also when I was fixing up the house, I put out all my materials on the credit cards. And as soon as I sold the house, I paid off all my credit cards and I walked away with a profit. And that was my very first one. I said, there's money to be made in this business.
Do you use several different partners?
Yes, I'll turn around and have one partner, and he saw, like basically, it's basically hard money, okay? Let me explain on it. I'll turn around and pay like terms of 15% on my money, which a lot of people would say, well, that's a lot of money. But I'm not using it for 30 years or 15 years. I got a great bunch of partners that I pay their money on it, I use it, I flip over the property, and after one partner saw what we made off houses, I couldn't tell you how many people are knocking on my door asking, hey, can I be your partner?
So the first time you used a partner, they kind of went in gingerly, didn't loan as much money as perhaps you wanted them to loan.
Not at all. They basically, my partners wanted to give me like 75%, and I had to keep coming up with money on my credit card. It's not the way always to go on the credit cards, but it was my way of coming up with it quick.
So that's interesting. The first deal you did with a partner, you came up with 25% of the cost of rehab and acquisition off your credit cards, and the partner came up with 75%, but once you became successful, then they were willing to loan more and more.
100% of my money right now.
And great. And now you've got several partners that are kind of competing with each other for your business.
Absolutely. Make your payments at all times. Keep your credit clean. you'll have a million partners.
You know, Mike, what you said a moment ago I think is very true, and that is that even though you're paying 15% to partners, compare that to an equity partner where you might have to share 50% of the profits down the road. So 15% for a matter of 3 or 6 months is really very, very inexpensive.
Yeah. Like I said, everyone sounds like 50% is a lot of money. It's not. You know, as long as you're able to make money, give the partners money, you make money, the store's money, it's a win-win for everyone, and everyone walked away a happy person.
Well, Mike, you may know that that's how I got started, and that is using partners, and you found your partners by going to an attorney and asking if they knew of anyone who would loan money to you. I would bet that many of you who may not have an attorney have many people within your sphere of influence, and I'm talking about your dentist and your veterinarian and your doctor and your druggist who might have a few $1,000s to invest or know someone who does that could get started with you as a partner. It's a great way to buy property.
Absolutely.
Great way. So, Mike, to kind of summarize what you're doing, you know the fair market value of the property after you fix it up. You know what it's going to be because you know comparables in the neighborhood. You know what the property is going to be worth. So what you do is you take that figure, subtract out the cost of rehabbing the property, subtract out the cost of holding on to the properties for as much as what, 6 months?
Yeah, around an average 6 months.
Average of 6 months, even though you sell it more quickly, that would be great. You take out the cost of selling the property, the real estate brokerage commission. You further take out the profit that you want to make, which you said was a minimum of $25,000, and that is what you can afford to pay the seller. And would you sometimes start out even lower than that figure?
Yeah, I would. I would say yes, I would.
Yeah.
You know?
And the great thing about it is, when you're able to close so quickly because you're using partners, I'll bet you get a lot of offers accepted that might not otherwise be accepted.
I could take their problems away in 1 week closing, all cash deal. If you were a seller, I'd be pretty excited about that.
You know, see, that is so powerful to be able to say to a seller, look, I can buy your property, I can pay you all cash, and I can close in 7 days. This is the power of using partners when you buy property. Mike, how are you able to sell your property so quickly?
Well, basically, my system is I will sell a house underneath, below market value. Mm-hmm. Okay, I got to become friends with mortgage people, mortgage services, that I could take that person and bring them to mortgage service to qualify them a little quicker instead of finding out down the road about 2.5 months that they're not going to qualify for the mortgage.
In other words, you almost pre-qualify them before you ever take them to the mortgage company.
Oh, yeah. I have everything totally set up now that it's step by step. Another way also that I sell it quicker, I put an ad in, which I got an idea from your tapes, on no money down. I'm able to sell a house for no money down. This works sometimes without realtors. Okay, I'll lend them the money for the down payment, and they bought a house for no money down, and I'm still selling it beneath market value, and they're walking in with a lot of equity in their pocket.
Okay, let's back up a minute. When you say you run ads in the newspaper, now do you do that at the time you're rehabbing the property, or do you wait until the rehab is completed?
Well, sometimes I used to do that sometimes before it was done, the house, and a lot of people say, I want this, I want that, and it was uncomfortable for the people. But at the same time, I sold a lot of houses doing it that way, and I said specifically, I'll put it in a contract that it's going to have new carpeting, repainted rooms. If I'm Pacific and I put it in a contract, it works. But it actually does look better when it's all cleaned up.
Sure.
Because when you bring your wife or wherever it may be, they want to come in and see it looking nice.
So the house has been rehabbed, you've run an ad in the paper, you've got a response, a prospect comes in, they're really interested. If they want to buy the property, then you immediately take them to your realtor or to the mortgage company, and you get them to quickly qualify the prospect.
That's correct.
Okay. Now, if there's any down payment needed, you loan them the down payment yourself out of the profit you're going to be making.
That's it.
And even after that, you've still made the kind of numbers that you've made on these properties.
That's right, and it worked on a couple of them. And they were able to buy a house for no money down.
For no money down. That is really a win-win situation. Getting someone into a property, no money down, that they can afford, and yet you're still making the minimum $25,000 profit, and in many cases 30 or 40 or 50 that you need to make.
And everyone's happy at the time, especially the buyer who's buying the house.
So Mike, what you're doing is you're loaning people the money that they need for a down payment. Many loan programs require a down payment and allow someone to gift that money to the borrower. So you're doing everything legally. They're buying the property no money down, and they're able to qualify by virtue of you giving them that money. And keep in mind, what Mike's doing is giving them the money out of the profit that he's making from the property. So if he is making a $50,000 profit and he's giving someone a $4,000 down payment, that cuts his profit back to $46,000. But still a very attractive deal for that.
$46,000 is $46,000.
Mike, let's talk a little bit about the actual fix-up. Who does the fix-up work for you?
Well, basically, myself, I do most of the work, or my workers do some of the work, or things I can't do, I have to get outside help to help me with it.
Well, Mike, I think I ought to point out to all the people watching that if you have as few fix-up skills as I do, you're going to need to have outside people do the work for you. And I'm talking about electricians and plumbers and handymen. They're not difficult to find, these people. Go to the classified ad section in your local newspaper. There's always a tradesman area where you see listings of people that do plastering work and tile work and carpentry and plumbing. Look at the yellow pages. And anything you do, you're going to want to get 3 bids for. You know, I think it's a good practice, Mike, and I don't know whether you do this or not. When you go in to look at a home that you're getting ready to buy, look at it as if you were a prospective purchaser of the ultimately rehabbed property. Imagine what you would want to have in there, the paint you'd want to see, the carpet on the floor. And I think it's going to give you a better idea of the kind of work that you're going to have to do after you buy that property. But again, don't worry, if you're not like Mike and you can't do all these things yourself, it's not hard to find people who can.
It's true.
Well, Mike, let me ask you, how do you decide what to fix and how much to spend on it?
Well, I look at basically the first thing I do when I'm looking at the house. Do I want huge trees in front of my house hiding the beauty of the house? So I determine how much it costs to cut down and get rid of them and put new shrubbery in. Then now being that I'm married, I'm able to bring my wife in and I look at what would my wife want to have when she walks in the house. Does she want to look at a bad kitchen? Or does she want to look at a new kitchen?
Boy, that is excellent. So, Francine, you're involved in the decision-making about what things need to be fixed up and bringing into a woman's point of view.
Yeah. We like to have it more open. Like, I'd say, like, before we used to do darker colors, maybe in the beginning, and now we switched that we want, like, lighter walls and sheetrock, maybe not paneling. We want it more like a woman's touch in there.
And clean looking.
Clean
it has to look
a
clean.
Neat kitchen with a stove.
No one wants to walk into a dirty house. It has to look clean.
Well, you know, I think that the mentioning this extra point of view is important. If you've got a wife or a girlfriend, or if you happen to be a lady and you're married or you have a boyfriend, get the other side's feeling about what has to be done. Get their perspective. I think that's an excellent point to be made. So you look at it. As you say, both of you bring both of your perspectives and decide what has to be done. How do you decide how much to spend? I mean, are you putting in the very best quality carpeting? Are you putting in tile in the kitchen? Are you putting in linoleum or vinyl sheet goods?
Well, on that, basically, I look for an average cabinet. You don't have to have the best looking cabinet, but you don't want it where it's a nice kitchen, you put garbage cabinets in. I locally go like a Home Depot, I get prices on cabinets, and I'll determine how much it's going to cost me to put in there. I'll put tile work down if it needs tile, if you're that type of area, or linoleum. Whatever looks clean. And as for the carpet, it doesn't have to be, again, the best carpet, but don't put the worst carpet in for $4.99. Make it look nice.
Have you ever had kitchen cabinets, for example, resurfaced? In other words, new surfaces put on them, or a new door, for example, rather than getting all new cabinetry?
Well, not really, because sometimes with my experience, I find putting new doors on is more expensive than just ripping out the cabinet and putting a new one up. But in some cases, maybe some store may have a special that you may go that way. The way I've been doing it, just taking them out and putting brand new ones up.
What are the most important rooms in the house? Francine, let me ask you, what do you concentrate on?
Kitchens and bathrooms.
Kitchens and bathrooms. And if you had to give 1 or 2 key words about the kitchen and bathroom, what would they be?
Well, if there's tiles that are cracked, they should be repaired. And a lot of times when a person's looking to buy a house, maybe they're not that handy to do that, so we feel that those things should be taken care of ahead of time and they don't have to worry about it when they are buying it. And, that it should be a neat, clean appearance.
So, no superficial cracks, repair that?
No cracks, no
clean,
tubs
very
that
clean.
are very clean.
Regrout the tiles in the bathtub, where maybe someone doesn't know that, it looks a little dirty. Regrout it for about $5, $10, and you got a brand new bathroom the way it looks. It looks brand new.
Very interesting, very interesting. Remove the old grout or put the new right on top?
Clean it up a little. put the new grout in and just polish the tiles, and you got a totally brand new bathroom.
Uriatic acid.
Yep.
Exactly right. Now, do you put in a new commode, a new lavatory frequently?
If it needs it, he does. Sometimes maybe just a new toilet seat. It depends what's needed.
The little things that I found to be important, front doors, for example, I think the first thing that you see from the curb, the first thing you go through when you're going into the house, I think are very important. I think the kitchen faucets, for example, women particularly like more expensive kitchen faucets. And when I say more expensive, I'm not talking about $300 or $400. I'm talking about the difference maybe between $25 and $65 or $70. Do you agree with me that those little things are very important? Nice brass handles on the front door, and
Because basically you're bringing your wife in to buy the house. If she's not happy, don't think you're buying the house.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And I can't emphasize enough, you women that are doing this rehabbing yourself, bring your husband or boyfriend in to get a masculine point of view as well. Mike and Francine, how much time do you allow for the various fix-up items that you do?
Well, I turn around and I try to stay on the high side. I'd say less than a month. To fix up the house, clean it all up, and get it ready to sell.
In other words, from the time you close on the property until the time you buy it, till the time you're ready to advertise it in the newspaper or give it to a realtor, a month or less.
That's correct.
Very good. How accurate are you on your fix-up estimates?
Well, Carleton, I turn around, I try to stay over what I'm going to spend. You never know what's going to happen tomorrow, what can happen in the house, you never know. So stay above it and you don't have to worry.
So you try to figure out what everything is going to cost, and then you put in a little bit of a miscellaneous...
That's right, because you never know. It may not happen, it may happen, but hey, the money is there. You estimated for it just in case.
Okay, so when you buy a piece of property, you take the selling price, you subtract out the selling cost, like a realtor's commission, you subtract out the holding costs, you subtract out the rehab costs, you subtract out your profit of $25,000, plus a little bit of a cushion in there to protect yourself in doing the rehab work.
That's correct.
Yeah. What do you come within usually $500 or $1,000 or $3,000 or what?
Well, my first couple, maybe I was a little off, but now I'm starting to get almost on a button on it. But even if you're off a little bit or higher or lower, on every house it'll vary.
Yeah. I think I would just have to say this is really a function of experience, and as you do one or two or three of these, you're going to find it very comfortable to estimate yourself what the costs are going to be. But to begin with, it doesn't hurt to have a carpeting person come in and measure and give you a bid. It doesn't hurt to have a general contractor or a handyman come in and accompany you through the property before you actually make an offer on the property, giving you a little bit of a comfort level about what it's going to cost. Mike, I think what you've done is just amazing. Let's just look at a couple of these. For example, here, this one, $52,415 profit in 3 months. Here are the checks. Tell me what you did with this property.
Well, basically on this one, when I pulled up in front of the house, it was all full of trees, okay? I found if I took all the trees all down, you could see the house. It was really a beautiful house just being hidden, okay? We went inside because the house was on the market for a little while, and kids came in the area, and of course they're gonna go in. Kids are kids, they're gonna go in there, trample the house a little bit. They took some of the pipes all out, and the furnace wasn't working too good. So we turned around and put brand new pipes in it. Instead of playing back and forth with the furnace, we put a brand new furnace in. We painted up the whole house, and it was all set to go in 3 weeks.
So the house looked worse than it really was.
Oh.
Again, trees hiding the true beauty of the house. The inside had been vandalized. So making the repairs that were necessary as a result of the vandalism, replacing the furnace, cutting down the trees, you're ready to go in 3 weeks.
Oh, absolutely. And we even gave ideas for the neighbors, and they started cutting all the trees down. Basically, the whole block picked up since we've been there.
It was just amazing. When we pulled up after he cut down the shrubbery in the front, the windows just looked so pretty in the house. It looked so much bigger.
And so all the neighbors joined in kind of cutting back the shrubs and trees in their property and made the whole neighborhood look better.
And their values look a lot better than what they did.
Now, let me ask you this. One thing that I've done, when I buy a property like that, I will inform the neighbors that I'm doing it and I'm looking for good people to buy the property. Do you ever find prospects to buy the property that way by going to people in the neighborhood?
No, really. You do one. I do it another way, just like with the ads in the paper and through the realtor. And maybe I'll tell a neighbor, listen, I'm an investor. I'm fixing up this house, and obviously, resell it. Maybe they'll have a friend or a relative that will come over and take a look at it. But your chances are good. It's a 50-50. You never know. Yeah, unless you say something to someone.
I can't emphasize the importance enough. The importance of what you said, Mike. You know, people think about rehabbing property or doing some cosmetic facelifts, about finding a property that's been burned out, a property that the ceiling is sagging down. You don't have to do that. Properties that lend themselves nicely to what we're trying to accomplish are merely properties that have overgrown shrubs, maybe have a little bit of vandalism, maybe have some obsolete kitchen and bathroom appliances and fixtures. Very simple to quickly fix up, very inexpensive, and yet can really bring big profits. $52,000 in 3 months.
Quite a lot of dough.
That's a great case study. Here's another one, 21 Hazel. You made $44,071 profit on this in 2 months. What'd you do with this property, Mike?
Well, basically, I bought the house. Okay, it had a leak in the roof, and I called the roofer up, and he repaired the roof. Okay, we went inside and we started painting one apartment.
Now, let me ask you, what did it cost to repair the roof?
The roof was, I think it was about $1,200 or $1,100, and it totally put a brand new roof on the house. Okay, and we went in there and painted it. I turned around and I threw it in the paper, okay, for a handyman special, okay, and we sold the house. And I told the people that we were going to fix up the house more, but they wanted to buy it as is. So we settled at a price, and I didn't even have to even finish that house to make that profit.
And made $44,000. Boy, that is great. And Mike, here's another one. This is I think this is the Baldwin property, isn't it? That you made $50,194 in 8 months, a little bit longer than the others. Tell me about this property.
Well, basically, I got that one, and what we do in there, we painted it all up, okay? It needed repair work on the furnace. We fixed the furnace. Both floors, it had kitchens in there, but I didn't like how they looked. So I tore them out, and I put, brand new starter sets in there. Cleaned it all up. What do we call it? We called the carpet guy to clean up all the carpets, because we didn't want to be bothered making a mistake and cleaning the carpets. And I threw it in the paper for no money down, and I sold the house. I had it with a realtor, and a realtor could not sell that house. Okay, so I took it out of the realtor's hand and I sold it myself, and I sold it very quickly.
So the reason it took 8 months is the realtor had a listing on it for 6 months?
She was not pushing it the way she should have.
And once the listing expired, you took it back, ran an ad in the paper, no money down, and sold it like that?
That's correct.
Boy, okay, very good. $50,000. Oh, there's another one. Francine, am I reading right? $53,000 profit in 2 weeks?
Yes, this one's amazing.
Tell me about this.
Well, basically, on this one, Carleton, I was doing a rubbish removal job at the house, and I asked the lady if she wanted to sell the house. So she turned around and says, I don't know, give me an offer. So she wanted $50,000 for it, and I offered her $35,000.
Now, did she tell you what she wanted for the property before you made the offer?
No. I told her, because it needed a lot of repair work. I basically came out and I came up with a figure in my head of all cash, $35,000.
Here again, so many people, if they had been told that by a seller, would be fearful of paying too much for a piece of property. Don't feel that way. No, this all comes from knowing market value. You know what the property is going to be worth when you get through. You can subtract out the cost of holding the property, the brokerage commission, the selling cost, the cost of rehab, the profit, and come up with a figure. Give them that offer, and if they take it, fine. If they don't take it, fine. You walk away. But don't be bashful about making an offer when a seller says, "What do you want to pay for the property?" So you offer $35,000, and they.
And we finally settled at a price for $40,000.
$40,000.
1 week closing, all cash.
1 week closing, all cash.
Okay. I immediately turned around, and I knew the house was worth between $140,000 and $150,000. It's a 2-family house, fixed up. Okay. I turned around and I put it in the paper for no money down. Not no money down. Handyman special.
Handyman special.
On that one, and I sold it for $93,000.
And we closed on the property on a Thursday, and he sold it that Sunday, 3 days later.
3 days later.
For a $53,000 profit in 3 days.
And when the buyer buys that house, he still has a lot of equity in that house, where he knows he made money also when he buys it.
So the buyer, with a little bit of fix-up, can put $50,000 in equity profit in his pocket.
A little paint and a little care.
Oh,
they got himself a profit out.
That's win-win. Let's go look around a little bit. Well, Mike, this is your office, and I look around, and I see all the necessary tools. You've got today's newspaper. Your file box. This is nothing fancy. This is where you keep the files.
Basically, these are my files. I put the addresses of them, and insurances, mortgages, everything's right in it. You can see I'm no accountant, but it does the job.
It's not fancy. It's just an old box, but it's absolutely all you need.
I know exactly where it is.
And here's I presume, a list of telephone numbers. I don't know whether you do what I do. I file numbers by occupation. For example, all my plumbers and painters are under the P's. My handymen are under the H's. Is that what you do too?
Same exact way.
Yeah, okay. We've got a telephone. Do you have a separate telephone line, or is that just your house phone?
That's my household phone. It goes throughout the whole entire house.
Okay. You got an answering machine and a fax. What did you have to pay for that fax?
Well, the fax, I believe it was between $250 and $350.
Yeah, they're so inexpensive now, and you can't afford not to own one. You really get a leg up, so to speak, on other investors, because you can have real estate brokers who handle REO properties fax you the properties as soon as they receive them. That gives you a big jump on other investors. You've got an adding machine here, calculator, which you need, and a computer. Do you use a computer?
Yeah, so basically, I was going to try it about 2 years ago. I do landscaping and investing with the real estate. I thought I was going to get it all on file and how to use it. Everyone says it's so easy. I don't even know how to turn on this thing, basically. My daughter knows how to use it before me.
So you don't need a computer to be...
No. Me personally, no, I don't.
To make nearly $1 million in 2.5 years. You know, Mike, it reminds me, we now have a computer toolkit out, a software that's available that, for those of you that do use computers, it makes it real easy to keep track of your properties. Mike, everything you've got here, most people have, or if they don't, could easily put in what you've got for $350 to $400.
Oh, easily. Or just use your kitchen table like I used to do, and that's your desk.
You know, that's a good point. You've got a separate, lovely office here in your home, but you could do everything here off your kitchen table. Mike, let's go look at a property. On the way to Mike's properties, we took a quick detour to his attorney's office. Stacy, you're Mike's attorney, and you've been practicing law now for 8 years?
That's correct.
Right. And I see your name on every one of these contracts. You handled all of these transactions, right?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did.
People watching might be wondering if Mike is for real. How would you respond?
Mike's definitely for real. I've been representing Mike since the purchase of his first home many years ago, and these are all the closing statements that evidence Mike's purchase and sale of those homes.
Do you realize that Mike and Francine have increased their net worth to over $838,000?
That's phenomenal. It's amazing how much money you can make. I'm thinking about switching jobs as a result of it, quite frankly.
What is your feeling about the course, Stacy, based on what you've seen of it through Mike's eyes and how it's worked?
Well, clearly, since Mike got the course and reviewed it, he's increased his profit margin based upon the information that he's picked up from the course, and it's taught him how to evaluate properties and find properties, because the hardest part very often is finding a property that you can make money on. And Mike has conveyed to me that he's found the course to be exceedingly helpful.
Based on what you've seen, Stacy, do you think there's any reason to think that everyone couldn't do this?
Oh, I don't think there's any question that anybody who wants to apply themselves can do what Mike's done. When Mike came to me, he was a contractor slash landscaper and really had no experience of this at all.
Charles, I know you're a broker salesman, you're an agent, a realtor, licensed by the state of New Jersey. Mm-hmm. Can you vouch for the fact that Mike is not a paid actor, that he really is a real estate investor?
Oh, yes, very much a real estate investor. Mm-hmm.
About how many transactions does he do a year through you?
Well, through me alone, I would say 5 to 10. It varies, of course, but on the average, I'd say it's getting to be about 10 now.
A lot of students tell me that when they talk to realtors tell them that the techniques that I teach just don't work. Why is that?
I'm not sure. I guess for every individual, the case is different. But I think I know the techniques do work. It's just a case of applying them in a very realistic way.
Mike, this is a property that you bought for $73,500, and you fixed it up, put about $14,000 in it, and in less than 3 months you sold it and made over $37,000.
That's correct.
Yeah. Now tell me what you did to the property.
Well, first of all, when I came in, Carleton, I took a look at the house, and the shrubbery was just overgrown all over the place. We had a tree on the one side that was dead that we took it down and totally gave a different look to the front. On the bushes in front, we turned around and just shaped them up a little bit, made them look good. Put a little grassy down, and the whole front of the house totally looks different.
That's all you did, was just sprinkle grass seed on the existing lawn.
Sprinkle grass seed, there's no expertise to it. around the top, we didn't paint it. Basically, we didn't go in that detail, but we did fix up the trim because it looked a little like it was peeling, and we did scrape it off. We got a couple of gallons of white paint and painted the trim to dress it up a little bit.
But most of the house you didn't paint, just the trim.
Just the trim itself. And on the porch itself, we put like new rug down and totally dresses up the front of the house. You know, also a new front door,
And you
storm
painted
door.
the steps.
Painted the steps.
Remulched.
Remulched the whole place.
And Mike, let me ask you, something that people I think are concerned about sometimes is the street. This is a busy street here. Do you look on that as an asset or a liability?
Well, both. You know, it's at one point it's very good because you're close to like a parkway or a local school, which is fantastic. And at the same time, it's a lot of traffic going through where a person maybe wouldn't like it for maybe with their kids, or a lot of people would turn on. So that's an iffy question.
Not enough to cause you a real problem.
No, not really.
Okay.
Plus, also it has a driveway.
Now, Mike, on this side of the house, again, you didn't paint the house, but you painted the trim.
I painted the trim a little to dress it up. And we got up here and we put a new gutter on, which was very hard. And I put also a couple new storm windows in the front to dress it up a little.
Okay, I think that's needed in a northern climate,
absolutely.
don't you? Yeah, okay. All right. Did you resurface the driveway?
No.
Okay.
We didn't do any painting over here at all. It was just, basically this was just cleaned up and get rid of all the shrubbery and get the grass going and make it look presentable the way it should look a little bit. I could have went into more detail on it.
Basically, just a lot of elbow grease and cleanup there.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Mike, tell me what you did to the back of the house here.
Well, in the back of the house, Carlton, we totally painted the whole porch in the back here. Okay, we put new screen underneath the bottom of the deck. Okay, a little cost. On the right-hand side, we took a bunch of trees down and weeds and totally put new grass seed in. And on the tree, we took a lot of the branches down and just gave it a little shape and gives it a totally different look.
You know, it's amazing how overgrown shrubbery and trees that are neglected can give a property a very rundown appearance, and it's so easy to correct.
Oh yeah, that's very easily to do.
So you just sprinkled grass seed back here and
spruced it up a little bit.
You've got a garage here. Was that pretty much in the shape that it's in right now?
No, what we did on this one didn't really look that great. What we did is we re-shingled it, okay, because it was in need of it.
Did you put shingle on top of shingle?
Yeah, shingle on top of shingle. Okay, it had one garage door, and we turned around on the one garage and put a new door on that side, and totally just repainted the whole entire thing.
You were able to match that nicely.
Right. It matches the house, and it's a good selling point to the house.
Let's go inside. Mike, how old is this home?
About between 90 and 95 years old.
Beautiful hardwood floors. I guess you could have refinished those, but there's no real reason to.
Yes, on this one.
Yeah.
In this room, we basically basically the first floor, we repainted everything. You know, we went to Home Depot, got some cheap, good-looking paint, off-white, and basically painted everything the same color.
What do you pay for your paint?
Probably about 5 gallons, I guess.
About 50 bucks?
50 bucks, 48 bucks, 50 bucks, and look at the appearance, totally a different look.
Hey, Mike, I'm looking at some furniture here. Were these things that you asked for in the contract the way I suggest in my course, or were they just left by the seller?
They were just left by the seller, and I just left them. Anybody wants to sit down when they're looking at the house, feel free to sit down.
And it's a small thing you can throw in,
That's
too,
right.
if they want to buy it.
They want it, it's theirs.
Yeah, I really believe in, you're right, in asking for non-essential contingencies like that, because it's amazing how many times you can actually get washers and dryers and furniture and other items that are left, yeah. And the cost of painting a room like this, and anyone can paint.
Yeah.
Anyone
Anybody can paint. You and your wife can spend a Sunday afternoon and just basically go around and paint everything in your house.
This is a dining room. Yeah. Again, just painting, and that's all you did.
Yeah. Basically, we could have went in detail. It was unnecessary. I tried to keep my expenses down. But basically, this could be even a beautiful house. It's nice now, but it could be even nicer. You spent a little time at it. And the new owners will probably do that.
Let's take a look at the kitchen. Now, first thing that hits me is the dark walls and the dark cabinets. You didn't feel a need to do anything about that?
No, not in this one. In this case, I usually do in a kitchen. Basically, I'll throw up new sheetrock. I'll paint it and it'll look a lot brighter. But in this one, we had a couple of people look at it and no one basically said anything. I usually put a couple new cabinets in, a new countertop, and it'll dress it up a little bit. But what I did do, we put a new floor down, okay? We also put a new stove in, and basically, like I was telling you before, when you go looking for a stove, you should be asking for discounts, you know, on appliances, and that way when you become a full-time investor, you can be getting these things a little cheaper.
And you do like I do and just tell them you're an investor and you'd like an investor's discount.
That's it for what?
Wholesale department.
The wholesale
in stores
department.
And like major department, you know, like a PC Richard. Or
Took me a little time to find that out. I had to lose some money before I actually found out,
Mm-hmm.
you know, that I could get more of a discount.
Now, Mike, the floor, you did a nice job on that. Did you rip up the old floor? Did you just use leveling cement
Yeah,
and level it out?
we just used leveling cement on it because
Yeah.
the floor wasn't that bad. It needed something newer to brighten it up, and basically I went with a lighter color. It was darker just to brighten up the kitchen a little bit.
Mike, from your experience, do you agree with me that there's a great temptation on the parts of some people that do rehabs like you and I do to spend too much money?
Oh, sure. If you basically don't fall in love with the property,
Yeah.
you know, go in there and say, look, I want to spend $5,000. I want to spend. Put a limit on it. No matter what anybody tells you, that's your limit. And if you control the people when they come in, what they want, what they don't want, that's exactly what you know you're going to be spending.
And don't fix it up like you're going to live in it yourself.
Don't fall in love with the property.
Yeah, exactly.
It's an investment, not your own.
Now, when you keep properties to rent out, of course, you have not yet done that. Let me see, when I keep properties to rent out, I put in used appliances if I need them. If you're buying a property to flip like you do, you probably put in new appliances where they're needed.
Oh, sure. It's a
Yeah.
good selling point. It looks nice.
Yeah. Now, I notice the refrigerator is a little bit different color than the stove, which if you felt a need to, again, could have been
If I had,
painted.
I can get it painted, redone.
Yeah.
And we looked around for Harvest Gold. We couldn't find it anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So you could see it a little bit, but a person, like I said, who wants to come in here, they're going to get it at a good price, the house.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to turn around and have their own refrigerator when they move from an apartment or their own house, and just basically everything will match in.
Right. Well, Mike, really, as I see it, you've fixed this property up for just a minimum amount of money, $14,000.
Yes, that's
You
correct.
put a lot of grass seed in. You took a lot of overgrown shrubs out, some trees that didn't look good. You cut back on the shrubs. In the back, you put a new garage door on, re-roofed over the garage. You painted that, painted the back porch, and inside some paint, some elbow grease, a new floor in the kitchen, and the house was ready.
Huh? It's all set to go.
You've got a new kitchen stove here.
And we could have went in a little more deeper in it, and we didn't. There's no,
didn't feel
you know,
the need to.
Not the need to at all.
But you had mentioned before, if the property didn't sell in a very short period of time, that you would have been very responsive to what people who looked at the property said. For example, they said, "Oh, I don't like the dark kitchen." You'd have done something about it then.
That's why I was saying let some leadway in when you're giving your appraisal on the house, when you're looking at the house. If you think it's 5, give it 7. In a case
Okay.
like that, that's where it falls into place.
Yeah, I'm with you. Well, I think you've done a fantastic job. Congratulations on making $37,000
That's
profit
correct.
on this. That's great.
Thank you.
Mike, I see that you made over $43,500 profit on this building. How did you find it?
Well, basically on this one, it was another foreclosure, and I saw, an opportunity in this one. They got faxed to my house, like usual with another realtor, ERA, and I came over and made an offer on it.
Did you have to do a lot to fix up the property? What did you do?
Well, basically it was just a cosmetic. The high lawns in the back was like very high, overgrown again. What I did is cut it down. I put a couple storm windows here and there and just dressed it up a little bit.
Did you have to do anything to the exterior of the building?
No, I didn't have to go that far with it.
So basically you took a building as is, cleaned up the lawn a little bit, put on some storm windows on the outside at least, and that's all you did.
That's it.
That's fantastic.
That's all I needed.
Before we look at the backyard, let's go in and take a look at the house,
Sure.
can we? How long did it take to do this one?
Let's see, this one took about 2 weeks.
About 2 weeks. 2 weeks. And how long did it take to sell it?
Well, as soon as it got done, I put it in the Star Ledger, and I put it for no money down. And I had a young couple buy it who was 21 years old, and they bought it basically with no money down.
And in what period of time?
Next week, after we finished it, I put it in a paper. They were we wrote up the contracts on one of your contracts, in fact, and we brought it into the mortgage service. From there, we got everything all set. And we should be having a closing in about a month on this.
You basically made $43,500 in 3 weeks.
That's correct.
That's fantastic. Mike, is this the original front door here?
Yes, it is. And what we did is basically like I do with all the other ones, is I get a couple gallons of Off-White from Home Depot, paint it all down, or any local store, and give it basically a nice cleanup and make it look presentable.
Painted the ceiling as well.
Yep. Going up the steps, the stairways, a regular brown, in case anybody's with their hand marks on it.
Yeah.
It keeps it clean looking.
Now, I noticed you did not change the carpeting here.
No, Carleton, on this, I had potentials of, I was going to keep the house. So I was going to rent it out, and I figured, well, if they were going to destroy the carpet, let them destroy it, and I was going to put it in brand new.
Instead, my wife went and bought out a rug cleaner, bought it, so we could save some money on it. And from now on, we're going to be cleaning carpets ourselves.
Now, what did you do here in the kitchen?
In the kitchen, basically, what we did is we put new drop ceiling blocks in. The ceiling was existing already. It was all brown, and we tried to make it look a little brighter and cleaner. I put a new stove in, and a little arm and hand, I'm cleaning up the cabinets, you know, scrubbing them all down and making them look a lot presentable.
And no refrigerator.
No, no refrigerator. It's unnecessary. All you need
Okay.
is, when you sell them, is a stove. You don't need a refrigerator or anything like that.
Now, was that bathroom there?
Yeah, the bathroom was there. What we did is come in, we put a new floor in here in the bathroom. We updated the shower and basically cleaned it up all back here also.
You said this was a two-family. Was it being used as a two-family when you bought it?
No, when I bought it, it was a one-family that we were using it. It was a large family, I take it, I guess. And I converted back into a two-family.
Okay, so it is a legal two-family.
it's a legal two-family
It is
house.
legal.
Yes.
But it was being used as one family. You know, that's a point to be made, and that is if you can find a property that can legally be made into a three-family from a two-family or a two-family from a one-family, the more separate living units you've got, the more money you can generate from that property.
That's correct.
Mike,
In these
how much total money did you spend on this place?
basically between $5,000 and $6,000 with between insurances, mortgage payments, cleaning it all up. I cleaned up upstairs. We put like a new kitchen, the cabinets we updated, and everything in total with guys helping me on my time over here. Basically about $5,000, $6,000.
Turnkey, the whole thing.
Turnkey.
That's not bad investment for over $40,000 profit.
Beats working.
Let's take a look at the backyard, Mike.
Sure.
Did you put in this little patio area here?
No.
This was here?
This was here, and when I finally took over the house, the grass was about up to here.
Yeah.
We came in, we whacked it, cut it all down with a couple of lawnmowers, and basically cleaned it all up and I threw a couple of grass seed all around, a bag of grass seed.
Yeah.
And just in the back here, we came in the back and we got cement. We redone it over the foundation and painted it up and totally dressed it up.
Now, Mike, what did this property appraise for when you finished with your work?
The price would be between $110,000 and $114,000.
$110,000 and $114,000, and what did you sell it for?
I sold it to a young gentleman for $98,000.
You see, that's the key. I mean, if you price your properties below market, you're going to find that they sell very quickly, and yet, despite doing that, Mike, you made $40-some thousand.
We all did well off it.
Yeah, a win-win situation for all parties.
I could have spray painted it, and I could have sat there and dumped a little more money into it, but I like to take a chance. I throw it in a local paper or the Star Ledger, and I like to see what I get. And if they turn around and say it needs this, it needs that, I'll go ahead and do it. But if they don't, I turn around and made a terrific profit off it, and I didn't do anything.
Now, Mike, at the time you begin to advertise, you've completed most of your interior work or your exterior work or both?
Yeah, basically, you know, some I'll push through the ads that it needs work a little bit, or I'll put it in the contract that it's going to be finished at closing. I'll state that in the contract. Basically, make it look nice before you put it in there. Or, some I finished.
It does basic cleanups before they.
Yeah, mainly just because you don't want people to come out and be turned off by what they see.
If you could say whatever you want, that it is going to be done, that's going to be done. You make it look neat a little bit. Everyone's got the right eye. And no matter what, a person has an eye for something different.
I'll say it again, Mike, I think the great temptation with inexperienced investors is to spend too much on property, almost as if they were going to live there themselves, and you just don't have to do it. Knowing your marketplace is so important, though. I mean, if the marketplace were not as tight as it is, you might find that the little things that you've not done now, you would have to do in order to get it sold. Yeah.
That's right.
New carpeting, for example.
But I always leave in, when I'm giving an offer on the house, leadway in case I ever run into that problem. I have the money to do it. So if you lead yourself maybe $2,000, $3,000, if you have to do it, it's there. If not, you walked away with the $3,000.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, Mike and Francine, it's been fun spending 2 days with you, and I just hope that what you've done is going to be as inspirational to people as I think it will be. You're just to be congratulated for your success in doing rehabs, and I think it shows everyone that you don't have to go in and find a property that looks like it's been through a war. You can do modest rehabs, modest cosmetic work, and still make an awful lot of money doing it. And I'll say to every one of you watching, if you're doing these on a regular basis and you're making the kind of money that I know you can make, please stay in touch with me and let me know. Francine, it's been great to see you again.
Seeing you again.
And Mike,
Thank you,
continued
Carl.
success.
Thank you. And good luck, everyone.